And this is a Fox News alert. A bombshell new report by the National Enquirer details how Bill and Hillary Clinton allegedly utilized the services of a political fixer for over a decade. It's a story you'll only hear tonight on Hannity. Also tonight, you'll hear from Indiana Governor Mike Pence, Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway. But first, the National Enquirer, after a 16-month investigation, describes how the man they call Mr. Fix-It helped the Clintons cover up their various scandals. Now, according to the Enquirer, this man's story is particularly compelling because the magazine alleges that back in 1994, it agreed to drop a story about Bill Clinton in exchange for special access to Roger Clinton's wedding featuring his then pregnant girlfriend, a deal offered to them by Mr. Fix-It himself. Now, the National Enquirer issued the following statement regarding their report, writing, quote, "In vetting this story during almost 2 years of investigation, we were confident in the credibility of Jeff Rovin after reviewing his handwritten diaries during the relevant time period, fax memos to the White House bearing date and time stamps, payoff ledgers, and the independent verification of 4 other sources who confirm Mr. Rovin's involvement in the Clinton operation." Now, we did reach out to Hillary Clinton, her campaign, and former President Bill Clinton's office multiple times, and neither, shockingly, provided us with a statement. It is important to note that Fox News cannot independently verify the story, but tonight, for the first time ever, this man's identity is being revealed. Joining us now in a Hannity exclusive is novelist and reported former Clinton fixer Jeff Rovin. Mr. Rovin, how are you, sir?
Sean.
Very nice to meet you. How did you meet the Clintons?
I've been interviewing celebrities since I was 19, and the editor of the Enquirer at the time, David Perell, good friend of mine, said, "Hey, I've got a really bad story about somebody you just profiled in Ladies' Home Journal." I said, "If I can get you an interview, would you bury it?" Negotiations followed, but that began a decades-long career as what Dylan Howard, the current editor, has.
Yeah. Now, I did talk to Dylan about your piece, and I'll get to that in a second. You know, a lot of people, they hear National Enquirer. Well, let me just put up a few stories that the National Enquirer broke that were correct. For example, the National Enquirer broke first and correctly O.J. in the Bruno Magli shoes, if you remember back at the time. The National Enquirer first broke John Edwards, the whole love child scandal. First the girlfriend, then the picture of the baby, if you recall. The story they broke also was Jesse Jackson's love child. The story the National Enquirer broke first and correctly, world exclusive woman at the center of Tiger Woods' cheating scandal is exposed. And then the story they broke first and correctly, Gary Hart asked me to marry him. At the time, and they were the first to have photos of Hart and Donna Rice on Monkey Business, and there were other, they've gone after conservatives. They went after Rush and some other stories. So people attack it because it's a tabloid, but they have a pretty good track record.
David Perell, who ran the teams investigating most of those stories, is a journalist. You may not like the material, but ironically, it is so heavily vetted because it is so controversial. It's probably better vetted than most of the stories in other media.
Well, I went through with your editor everything that you had. You do have ledgers. You did have the faxes with the letterhead and the timestamps. The Clintons know you. They're watching now. They know who you are. They know you fix things for them. Tell us about how you got in the business with them and what you did.
I was fixing something. I really don't like that term, but there it is. I was fixing something for an actor who was in their inner circle, and that was how I was engaged. Now, it was that simple. I also, as a ghostwriter for Tom Clancy, had met generals and undersecretaries. I knew where the back doors were in Washington. So there were different ways to deal with things.
You knew when Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton went on 60 Minutes and they denied Jennifer Flowers, which eventually he admitted to in the Starr report, that he was lying.
Yeah, you know, I thought this was going to be pretty easy when I first agreed to do it because you had Paula Jones, Jennifer Flowers. The stuff was out there. I figured, okay, we're done. We weren't. I would say that David Perell's files, and I know that Dylan and his team have their own files, but David's files were massive. I mean, we're talking Canterbury Tales massive. The reason that I agreed to participate in this process now was not an easy decision because I don't like publicity.
Why did you?
Yeah. Because Dylan showed me the article. There were names in there that I didn't feel should be in there, friends of mine, confidential sources that he didn't realize were confidential. And I said to him, okay, I will participate, provided I can compare your article to my journals, take out these names, and most importantly, and this is going to have the odor of hypocrisy considering the story itself, I wanted to write an editorial condemning the salacious nature of political reporting now. Look, the New York Times has become the Inquirer has become the New York Times. The world is upside down. We've got to set it right again.
All right, so your job was to help hide their scandals. And the degree to which you're saying they had an open marriage, you're talking about hookers, you're talking about dirty tricks, spying off journalists, and much more. Why don't you give us specifics?
Well, again, let me qualify that by saying these are Dylan's words. One of the reasons I wanted to come on your show.
Is there anything that's not true in what I said?
No. One of the reasons I wanted to come on your show is to put things in a little less hyperbolic way, perhaps.
A little less sensational?
Yeah, without the screaming.
You don't think paying off people and having an open marriage and...
To me, it's not my business and it's nobody else's
So you're
business.
libertarian in terms of people's sexuality. That doesn't matter to you?
My personal feelings were irrelevant in this. It was really a matter of, look, when you are at the White House and turn a corner and there's the Gilbert Stuart portrait of George Washington that's on our money, when you walk in the Rose Garden with your wife, you get seduced. You want to protect the people who are helping you have that access.
And that happened to you?
To a degree, sure. And I was only on the periphery. You can imagine what
How many times were you in the Clinton White House?
Twice. I was there twice.
What about one of the big issues that I think matters? Hillary claims she's a champion of women's rights. You have, I assume this came from you, to Harold Ickes. A lot of redactions in it, though, about how to smear Monica Lewinsky.
Actually, that particular document came the other way around. It says
to Mr. Ickes from.
Yeah, the from was one of the reporters that we hired to dig into Monica's story, and that document.
And they were out to smear her in a major way as being nuts and, very unstable, emotionally needy. All sorts of dirt.
But here's the irony of this. That document has been in the files of the tabloids for 20 years because I was told, send this to your contacts, see if they can dig up more information. And I'm only glad that I got to apologize in person to Monica.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Where?
She became my neighbor in New York in one of those cosmic karmic ironies.
Wow. And you told her what you did and who paid you. And you say you never got paid. Did you? You never got paid?
I never got paid for this, no.
Why would you be a fixer and not get paid?
Because I was working with people who were involved.
But you got money to pay off other people.
Correct.
And who gave you that money?
Correct. Not going to get into that. Those are some of the names that I wanted out of the original article.
So there were certain people that would give you money. Was there ever threats if you either knock it off or we'll break your legs?
No. It was, first
Nothing,
of all,
not necessarily from you. I watch a lot of movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Or was it all bribery?
It was all bribery, but it was more...
Payoffs.
Yeah, because you have to understand.
Was there a sort of a threat, a subtle threat given, you're going to shut up now? Anything like, that's a fair question.
No, it's absolutely a fair question, but the trickle down or trickle up nature of this was the tabloid sources that I would pay would then go to their sources, who were invisible people like limo drivers, hotel clerks, wait staff, security guards, who would see and hear things and would tip them off. So it went from that group to the reporters to me, and then I had to make the decision about how to deal with it. And most of the time it was just money. There never had to be any threats.
What was your contact? You're saying the Clintons directly knew what you were doing?
I spoke to Hillary on 2 separate occasions about certain things. Now,
can you say what they are?
I'd rather not at this point. This
is a big part of the question.
Yeah,
though. This would be important.
I spoke to her at the Roger Clinton wedding,
where the National Enquirer had exclusive access.
Yeah.
Maureen Dowd said it's not true.
Yeah, well, we had exclusive, complete access.
Got it.
I know I saw Maureen had filed a story in the New York Times.
Right.
You have to remember that every time I saw Hillary, I was bringing bad news. The messenger got shot.
Did she have the infamous temper we read about? Not with you?
I wouldn't say there was a temper. There was a steeliness. There was
a resolve to fix it.
Yeah, uranium in
Would
the
she
forehead.
tell you specifically, you fix this?
She said she wanted it fixed.
I tell you what, we got to take a break. We'll come back and we'll have more. This is a pretty incredible story about cover-ups and, well, about a life of the Clintons that they obviously don't want the American people to know. We'll continue with Jeff Rovin. He is known as the Fixer. This is the National Enquirer piece. And also coming up tonight, Project Veritas released a brand new video of Democratic operatives appearing to admit that Hillary Clinton ordered a dirty politics plan to try and damage Donald Trump. Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, is here tonight. And then later, Donald Trump's running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence, is here. That and more straight ahead, right here on Hannity.